Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another episode of the Backyard SportsCenter podcast. Today, I am here with fan favorite SilverBullet, everyone's favorite backyard baseball player. So, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I don't think that I've actually been on the podcast. I even take that comment of fan favorite. I take that with very much pride. I love being the outgoing person and as much pain as possible in a season that you could possibly have with my teams of the last 3 years, or last 3 seasons. But you know what? This has been a season that, you know what? I think I've made tremendous strides. And I think if we look, and we'll get into it too, we'll see how some other coaches have really made some big strides this season.
For sure. One thing I wanted to ask you is that you currently are playing on Mac, correct?
Yes.
So I had Titanium on just the last episode that I posted recently, yesterday, and I think he also might have played on Mac too. I'm not sure. How has the Scum update affected or improved your gameplay from season to season?
I think it's given me more confidence. It's not like I've not thought about playing on PC, but I think here's the thing. I think if I had a better squad of people, I think there would definitely be scores that I would have gotten back and probably even won. So you know what? I think this season for me is really just knowing that I'm capable of swinging the bat and actually getting home runs, and that it's not just a fluke, and that what I'm playing on is somewhat at least close to what the rest of you guys are playing on. And I think it really also has to come with strategic, like knowing when to swing the bat and knowing when to take a pitch. And so I think that's the biggest improvement for me. Is I've definitely had calls go the opposite way, but I am noticing the little things that I didn't notice seasons ago. And I think if we have a fresh season next year, I think that this is definitely something to build upon.
I think a lot of it is like it's knowing that I know there's obviously gonna be those like really annoying pitches that look like a strike and get called a ball, or they look like a ball but get called a strike. There's always gonna be those annoying pitches. Everyone has them. But I think one of the biggest things that people don't realize is that you don't have to swing at every strike, and at every strike is not a good pitch to swing at.
Right. You don't know if that hit's going to be a grounder right up the middle to the pitcher, or you have to pick your good, even more specifically, you have to pick your good pitches more strategically. A pitch that you think is going to be coming right at the hands versus a pitch that's on the right outside the plate. You're going to take that pitch that's right outside the plate over what's on the hands. So, but then again, I've seen balls go way yard when you get a pitcher that comes right at you inside. So, but I think it is a thing that if you're a new player, realizing, okay, it's the first pitch, I don't have to take it. And it's hard. It definitely comes with time to be like, oh, it's such a good pitch, and realizing it's really at the same time, it's not.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, it definitely takes some time to get used to when you're just playing against the normal gameplay computer and playing against the super defenses that we come up with and try to limit the opponent.
When I first started playing, I was swinging at pretty much every pitch. I think it is crazy to me to think that, like, how was I so successful when I was playing this more casually, and then realizing, oh wait, the difficulty was so much easier.
Yeah, you didn't have to go against defenses that had Jeter and Sammy Sosa on the same team.
Nope. Was not a thought that I would realize, oh, this is probably going to be problematic for me.
It took me, like, after my first season, it took me throughout the process of that season and, like, the couple months after to, like, wait, this is not normal backyard baseball that I'm used to playing. This is a step up from that.
Nope. No. Oh, yeah. And then when I tell people, like, oh, so like I obviously I've talked about it with friends. They're like, oh, so you play backyard baseball? Like, I was telling them about how I play backyard baseball, and usually like the first thing out of my mouth is like, oh, you know Pablo Sanchez, right? Like, oh yeah, I remember that as a kid. Like, I used to be so great at that game. I could whip all your butts. And I was like, please go do that, because whatever I'm doing, I'm coming close to beating people, and I severely doubt that you could come even closer than I can. And I've been playing this for 3 seasons.
Well, yeah, have them sign up for season 10.
Yeah. I had a buddy of mine. He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna whoop all your butts," and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna keep you to that. Like, whenever you want to play, like this is what you signed up for." He's like, and then I went back to him like weeks later and was like, "Hey, you still want to join?" He's like, "Nah." It's like, "Okay, well then, fine. You weren't that invested in the first place."
Yeah, if he doesn't want as much of a time commitment, he can also try out the online league. There's a lot of good players
Yeah.
there that I'm sure can, beat him pretty good.
Oh yeah, I haven't even dipped my toes into the online league. I see all that stuff on Discord, and I'm like, wow, really? There are people who are going way. I don't know. I would say the skill level in the community league versus what's online is totally different from each other.
Well, it's a different kind of meta, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, one, when you're drafting, you don't got to worry about AI defense and who's going to come in to pitch. There's your catcher going to come in
Oh
to
god,
pitch, and then you get a bunch of free steals, or you don't got to worry about that anymore. You just got to have to worry about the user side of things.
exactly.
But yeah, it makes it a totally different game. But also, the Mac build isn't currently been developed yet, so
Yeah, that's another thing of reasons why I'm not playing online. But hopefully we'll have that soon in the next year. I hope, or next season. That should be fun. I would love to get to know a little bit more of the online community that isn't in our normal like casual play. So I'm hopeful for that. That should be fun.
yeah, I can't wait till that gets going. I don't know exactly when the Mac build's going to get done, but the more people that say they want it, the faster it'll get done.
Exactly.
So hopefully that gets going pretty, within the next, couple months or so. Fingers crossed.
I'm sure TuneCat and everybody else is working on it tirelessly, putting in the labor, putting the hard hours to make sure that this works. I'm not worried. They're probably pushing stuff away and typing as fast as they can to make sure it's perfect.
Yeah, that definitely. Yeah, we have a good development team that have been working hard on a lot of various projects, and
Shout out to Viz. I know you're.
this season has been quite fun.
Yeah, but we're almost coming to a head. So we got playoffs and they are going.
Yep, we got the rBBL S9 playoffs currently right now. Start out with the National League, 'cause that's where you were in.
I have played some of these teams too. So let's see.
Well, you played all the teams.
Yes, it's true. I might not. I might have blocked out some of it because I've just blocked it out from the pain. But
First matchup that I'm gonna go over is the Green Monsters and the Humongous Giants.
okay.
That is of the Green Monsters and Titanium of the Humongous Giants. So what do you based on since you played against both of these teams, do you have any thoughts regarding either of their rosters or
Let me go look. I wonder. Is there a master lost? There is. I know there is somewhere. I just have to go find it. Give me a second. Pause for station identification. Okay. Okay. So when I played this team, I know the first matchup that I had against them, I wasn't able to get anything going whatsoever. I am happy in the fact that he didn't put up a 50 on me. He only put up 15, which is great. But having Alex Rodriguez and Derek Jeter on your team, and honestly, I also think a super underrated player is Lisa. Lisa's great. She's consistent enough to do what you need her to do.
yeah, Lisa is definitely an underrated pitcher for sure.
That's also I didn't even think about that. I'm pretty sure she must have. She must have been pitching when I was, and definitely had a struggle with her for sure. What'd she do pitching wise? Pitching wise, she an ERA of 1, at least what I'm seeing right now, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up what the ERA of 1.
That's tough. That's tough. Even the second person playing that they had pitching was Ricky, and I'm not a. If you know me enough, I'm not a big fan of Ricky. I know that he can really drop the ball real quick, but overall pitching wise, a 120 1.20 ERA is not bad at all for as many. Though the comparison is the fact that she had almost 200 more batters faced, but regardless, if Lisa's having to go that far and still having a 1 ERA, it's going to be tough to really crack that and still get something going. Which I think the closest, what was the closest matchup the Monsters had all year was the Melon.
Well, they lost 3 times.
The Melonheads, they lost 3 times to.
They lost to the Cardinals the last week 20-0 when it didn't matter at all.
Right. So
they lost to the Athletics 12-1, and they lost to the Yankees 5-16.
Of those losses, what does that tell you?
They were resting their players in the last week of the season.
Okay.
Obviously, that the Athletics defense was pretty good. I remember watching part of that game, and Jimmy Rollins in left field was doing really well. So, and then I don't know much about the Yankees, but that was at DuBois Field, and it's not a cement or a bouncy field. So, without hitting home runs and without getting those nice grounders, it's kind of a harder field to score runs for that style. So that would be those 3 games. But both of these games were at basically the same field.
Right.
With cement gardens for the Monsters and paved way for the Giants. The Monsters won the first game. I don't think the first game was really that close. Let me see if I can find the results of that game. Okay, so the first game was the Monsters won +19 to +3.
Oh.
I'm doing my math right.
Yeah.
I don't have the stats available for that, but the Monsters excelling at Cement Gardens. And then the second one was the controversial one where
right.
The files were a little bit messed up, but ultimately, between the admin team and the players involved with it, they decided to accept the results of both of the games, and it was determined to be a tiebreaker that the Monsters have won game 2. So because of they allowed the least amount of runs to the AI. So based off of that, they end up winning that series and moving on to the National League Championship Series.
Mm-hmm.
Which goes on to the next series, which was the Super Duper Diamondbacks of Pepsi Boy and the Minnesota Twins of Toast.
Hey, good season, Toast.
Diamondbacks had a rookie season, as were the Giants. Both of those teams doing really, really well for their first season.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, they had the huge 3-person trade.
Yeah.
Or 6-person trade between the two. So that was kind of a interesting thing that even further, kind of compares those two teams together. Diamondbacks have a really good offensive roster with the Cons, Henry, and Starr. Jeff Conine, who Pepsi doesn't like that much, especially because Conine's at third base.
I think he's okay at third base. It's not ideal, but I think he's fine.
An experienced coach could exploit Conine at third base, but
yeah,
you could do worse.
Yeah, exactly. You could do way worse.
You also got Lance Lambert, Linda Potter, Tina Herrera, and Adam Van Dorn. So it's definitely a speed and homer offense. Very extremely offense heavy. Diamondbacks got to put up lots of runs.
The Diamondbacks put up 23 on the Yankees. They put up 22 on the Athletics in the last 2 weeks. So I think they're really hitting their stride right about now anyway, too, which is perfect.
Yeah, they scored just under 200 runs. So that's about like a 14 or so run per game average. 14 to 15 runs per game.
Do you think that they'll continue to have this productivity with the defense of the Green Monsters?
I think it's going to depend on how many home runs can they hit. It's a very home run favorable field at Big City Stadium. It does have balances that favor like Starr and Adam Van Dorn. So they should be able to, depending on how the RNG goes, as far as like, are they hitting it right at like Jeter and A-Rod? Because if they hit a bunch of balls like right at Jeter and A-Rod, it's going to be a long series for them. and they're going to struggle to get some runs up. But if they kind of get those lucky bounces and it goes past them or get past Brett at second base, they could get some hits, and also they hit home runs. Definitely could hit lots of home runs at Big City.
Defensively speaking, though, what is the Diamondbacks' weak point? Is it their center field, or who do they have in center field?
Achman's in center, I believe.
No. I'm just thinking logically, center being the outfield for some reason. I don't know why I'm saying that, but infield versus outfield is what I'm.
I think their outfield is Adam Van Dorn, Ahmed, and Amir.
Amir had a good season.
So their defense is definitely not the best. So basically, they have to hope that they're going to score a bunch of runs and then just outscore the opponent.
With 16 homers this year, Henry Duchesne. So let's hope he can continue that.
The matchup as far as the National League Championship Series is definitely an offense versus defense matchup. I do want to talk a little bit about Toast. Toast also started in the same season that we did in season 7, I believe. And in season 7, he had a really good season. I believe he just missed out on the playoffs by like a game or so, or it might have even been a tiebreaker, because that was with Mello and Hit Ace. I don't remember too much about exactly the details on that, but I know there was, with season 7, we had it outlined a little bit differently than we had this season, and we had 3 divisions of 8 based off of skill/experience, and the top division had 4 teams that made the playoffs, and the other 2 divisions both had 2 teams. So I think if it was just like best records, or however, if it was broken up a little bit differently, the Toast might have made the playoffs in that season. Definitely had a really good season.
Yeah.
I believe he struggled a little bit in season 8 and then really came on in the second half.
5 wins?
He won 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5 wins in the second half. So going 5-2 really came on in the second half to solidify that wild card spot. He had a really good offensive roster that he built as well, because he had...
At it, even just by looking at his roster, they seem to be an offense that if you were just taking a quick glance at them, you wouldn't expect such firepower out of them, which is really deceiving to other coaches.
Well, they have Xenon and Claudia, which is the Griffey clone. Those 2 automatically know are going to hit a lot of home runs. Stan and Sonya are just really solid all-around players that have decent power, really good arm. Nikki Whitston has a good bat, good arm. Isabel Morelli is the Ronnie Dobbs clone, which is certain players have done well with them. Certain players really don't like them. It kind of depends on the coach.
Right.
Tom Glass is a good pitcher. I always seem to struggle against Tom Glass when he pitches for whatever reason. And Robert Young hits a lot of home runs, and Olive Haldy is a decent speedster late round pick. So definitely really like that roster, especially it was a really good roster for Steel Stadium when you're going to hit a lot of home runs. So really proud of how Toast put this season together in the second half and made the playoffs, and hopefully it's a sign of good things to come for future seasons.
I think it's a good thing to come for all of us who started this. I think now going into, who knows, our 3rd, 4th season, I think that all of us that have joined at that current time are really going to be hitting their stride next season. So I'm hopeful. I'm very, very hopeful.
Yeah, definitely a lot of fun. The more time that you get a crack at, designing your team and drafting it, the more you learn, okay, what players do you like, or what style do you like to hit? Do you like to hit home runs? Do you want to hit the grounder balls, or, who do you like to pitch with, and that sort of thing?
These are, I think if looking back, if you were to tell me these are questions you have to ask yourself while designing your team, I don't think I would have actually thought about them now as much as I do going into next season. So I really do think Toast did a great job of having a team that is pretty much very balanced at its core.
Yeah, I think she sums it up perfectly. So the championship series is the Monsters and the Diamondbacks, like we mentioned. Who do you think is going to prevail? Is it going to be the defense of the Monsters or the offense of the Diamondbacks?
I don't know. I want to say it's good to be the Monsters because they've been way more consistent than the Diamondbacks have been. Not nearly as much, but It's going to be close. I think I want to say the Monsters are going to pull this out. I think defense wins championships. If you can stop him, if you can stop the defense from scoring or stop the offense from scoring, I think there's enough firepower in the Monsters to really put up some numbers. I think if you go it against defense versus defense, just as is, I like the Monsters defense way more.
Yeah, I also think the Monsters are going to win. I think the Monsters are going to win in I think it's going to go 3 games. I think the Diamondbacks are going to have one game at least where they score 20 plus runs.
Yeah.
I don't know what game that will be, but I think there's going to be one of the first 2 games where they do score up runs.
It's going to be a game 3 thing. I don't think that there's a sweep here. I think these are both very good teams. I could see maybe that the Monsters come back, win 1, Diamondbacks win 1, they just tie. They have to go to game 3. I don't see either of these teams just running away with it.
Yeah, it's going to be a really exciting matchup, and I'm really excited to watch how these games go. I know both of these teams usually stream their games, so really good entertainment value as far as this series as well.
I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be watching.
Yeah, definitely. You do not want to miss these games. Moving on to the American League, which is already done at this point.
Speedsters. We got speedsters on the American League, just getting games done.
Yeah, we're speedrunning our games faster than titanium. The first series was the White Cubs of Emery, the reigning champion, and my Atlanta Braves. Can definitely say this was a challenging series going into it, both because of the coach and also the roster that I was going up against, and the home field of the Cubs, which was Cement Field or Cement Gardens, which is probably the worst possible field for the roster that I made. Just very defense oriented and power based, and you can't really hit home runs there. And since I didn't have enough speed to counteract the cement, it really was a challenge to score runs there. I really built my team as far as for kind of a grass kind of fields or fields where you can hit home runs on. So
it's and that it really sucks that is what it really comes down to is what field you're playing on. Because I think if there were any other field that you played on, it might have been a different story.
yeah, because I think I could have won that series if, like, even if I had a home field advantage or if it was like at a neutral field or something, I think I might have been able to pull it off.
Are you satisfied with how it turned out? I mean, obviously not, but like the way that what was the toughest game? Was game 2 more tough than game 1?
I don't remember what was tougher between 1 and 3. Game 2 was at home for me, and that was my best game. I think Rachel had a couple home runs. So game 2 was a good game. Game 3 I scored like a solid, I put up like 10 runs, I believe. I gotta go look at the stats real quick. Or not the stats, game 3, I put up a solid 10 runs, but I can't compete with a plus 17 on cement. That's just rough for me.
That is definitely rough.
Game 2, I put up a plus 19 on I put up a plus 19 on my end on game 2. So I had a really good score for game 2. And for game 1, I put up a plus 9 to a plus 13. So I almost won game 1. So yeah, it was a really close series. I think what really made a difference is the field. Just cement's not good for me.
Yeah. I would love to never ever play at Tin Can Alley ever again. Ever.
Really? Why is that?
I definitely did not enjoy playing at it this year. I think it definitely affected my ability to know what I was getting into. I think I understood that it was hard to score home runs on that field, but I don't think I actually grasped that idea until I actually fully played on it every couple of weeks. And I just prefer a grass field, I think.
I think you actually had a really good roster for it.
That did luck out. Yes, I think that I did have a good roster for it, but I offensively I don't think it was there.
Because it's weird. I think you kind of like have to like act like you're trying to hit home runs there and just hit off the wall, hit off another time, hit off the wall, another hit off the wall, and just lump those hits together and just hope you get that conga line of
Right.
home runs or fake home runs, so to speak, and get those big bounces off the walls.
Royals and Rays. It's gonna be a good World Series. I am pumped.
Yeah, the Royals and the Rays, that series, game 1 was a -2 for Jibbo to a +2 for the Royals. So both teams were struggling, but the Royals struggled just a little bit less. And then game 2, everything just exploded for the Royals. A +32, 35-3 was the score for the Royals side of things, and then it was a 12-1 for the Devil Rays, which is a solid score. You know, you're getting a +13. That's a good score for that roster and that team. But it's hard to compete when someone's putting up 30s and 40s like the Royals have been doing a lot of times this season. So the Royals ended up taking that one 2-0. And then the AL Championship Series went by really fast as well, since that one's already done. The Cubs and Emory, the reigning champion, taking this one too. Game 1 was +26 to +11. The white Cubs really liked Big City.
Oh, that's. I mean, I still think it's a great offensive showing, even though it wasn't enough.
And then game 2 was +16 to +26. So the Royals put up a good score in game 2, just was not enough. Emory scoring 26 runs in the first game and 25 in the second game. It's hard to win games when someone's putting up 25 points or runs each time.
It's debilitating. It's really debilitating.
Especially if you have like a really solid game, and like you know, losing 20-25, it just is like you just feel terrible. It's like I don't even know what else I could have done. Like,
Right, exactly. You put up the most amount of points you possibly could. I would say anything over 10 is a good day for me, but I know there's other people in this league that really putting up 20 points on a person is probably might not even be enough, and that really stinks.
yeah, how I always look at it is like I always want to get more than 10. More than 10 is like, you know, you had a pretty good game, and if you can get anywhere between 10 and 20, that's you're gonna win a lot of games if you can score consistently in the 10 to 20 range. And if you can score more than 20, you're most likely gonna be in the running for winning the league.
My aims are very high for 20 plus runs next year, hoping. So you heard it here first, guys. 20 plus runs from me next year consistently. I don't think it's going to happen, but hey, you know what? A boy can dream. I
would love to see that happen. Knowing where, you know, you all started and then like being able to do that, I would love to see you make the playoffs next season.
Yeah, that would be great. And now we got the Cubs, and the Cubs are just who would you call their MVP this year?
Probably either Pete Wheeler or Sally Dobbs.
And Sally, I would say, would you say that most people are, is she underrated as well, just as Lisa is, or do you think more?
I think that Lisa is more underrated than Sally. I think that Sally has a good track record of performing really well on veteran teams.
Right.
Especially this last couple seasons that the Cubs have had and Emory have had them. So I don't think that Sally is underrated anymore. If anything, she might be overdrafted next season with somebody trying to snatch her away. Which I think that's the one thing you gotta pay attention as far as like if you see that like one or two people, or especially if it's like one coach that's done really well with them, you gotta be careful not to overdraft that player because
part of me would love to just go look at the Monsters roster and see. I mean, I don't have time now, but how much of a steal did the Monsters I'm guessing the Cubs as well. Where do they pick? Did they pick their players earlier? Or they reach for anything? Because they've both formed great rosters, and I don't think they needed to like. It was remarkable how they both put them together. Is what I'm saying.
I don't remember exactly all the trades that happened as far as them, but I think Sally was like a 4th round pick. I think Mikey might have been a 3rd round. No, Mikey might have been a third round pick.
I think
Pete was a first round pick. Pamela fell really, really far. And I think the Cubs got a steal of getting the Kendall clone as late as they did. I think it was like 5th or 6th round. It was something like really surprising and really dropping. Like it was just like a really surprise that they got Pamela at that point. And then also they got the Dante clone and Jordan Thorner. I think Jody probably was their least or most regrettable player as far as the draftees, and then snatching up Dominic from the undrafteds as their quote unquote 9th round pick really stood out. I think Dominic is a really solid player, possibly even without power ups.
Did I have Dominic? I want to say I definitely had Dominic one of these seasons.
If you had him, it probably would have been in season 7, because I had him in season 8.
He can be good. I wish he was more consistent, but he can be good.
But considering that most likely, like, I had him as my pitcher last season, he's a really solid pitcher. Like, I think like all of his pitches are like above average, which is really good for a 9th rounder.
Yeah, that I can definitely attest is true. That's for sure.
And as far as the monsters, I don't exactly know how their trades went, but it doesn't seem like that any of their players they really overdrafted. I don't remember when Davey went, but I think that they might have gotten 2 first, possibly if Davey and Derek, and then gotten Alex in round 2, and then I think everyone else kind of looks like they might have been like 3rd or like 4th, 5th, 6th-ish until you get to like Brett Olson and Ricky Johnson. So I think they might have traded up a little bit to get their big 3 of Davey, Derek, and Alex, but I think they drafted really well for the places that they had their picks.
Absolutely, they did.
And then the Diamondbacks, we all know what they did as far as trades and everything, so that's where we are as far as the playoffs are concerned. Let's move on to the consolation tournament. We had 4 players from the National League and 4 from the American League. The American League teams were the Reds of JY, the Pirates of Question Monkey, the Orioles of Mav, and the Angels of Bobby.
I haven't been paying attention to the constellation, so I really don't know much about these teams. I don't think. I mean, actually, how many did I play? I played the Athletics. Let's see what else. Who else did I play? I wish I had.
There was 4 in each one, so you played the Fishes, the Yankees, the Athletics, and the Marlins. Okay. But the American League, the first round was the Reds against the Pirates at Ekman. The fields were determined by the field, or the fields were determined by the wheel. The fields were determined by the field. So this was a tiebreaker, 10 plus to 10 minus. Pirates barely sneaking by that one, winning that game. The Orioles putting up a plus 24 to a plus 4 at Tin Can Alley. The Orioles just know how to put up runs, especially at Tin Can.
Oh, I might even announce this now, but I'm pretty sure I will be the Orioles next season. Someone who said that to me, he said that I could be the Orioles because I am from Baltimore, so I would love to be the Orioles next year if that happens. I'm pretty sure.
Well, that would be up to Mav. That's breaking news on the podcast.
I think Mav texted or messaged me like months ago. I can't find it right now, but I'm pretty sure he's like, hey, if you were interested in being the Orioles next year, let me know. Yeah, hey, I'm looking at my thing. He said I've been hogging them for a long time. Figured somebody would want to ask. I was like, yeah, I would love to be the Orioles. So yeah, so I will most likely be the Orioles next year. So that should be fun.
Breaking news on the podcast. Season 10 Orioles are moving from Mav to SilverBullet. Did the next round, so the winners played each other, the Pirates and the Orioles, and Mav beat that one 14-3 at Playground.
Love Playground. Sorry.
Playground is a really fun one. I really like Playground. So Mav doing really well at 2 offensive fields, so it'll be really interesting to see what field they get in the American League winners bracket. The winner of the American League goes on to the the champion of the consolation tournament. The losers bracket was the Reds and the Angels. Bobby putting up a plus 16, doing really well at Parks, which was their home field against the Reds. That eliminates JY, sadly.
JY. Oh, JY.
Yeah, I would make a JY joke, but I can't think of any right now. So right now the next game is going to be the Pirates, and they're the home team playing at Tin Can against the Angels. They had a really memorable match of the week where Gary Allen hit basically a walk-off grand slam to win it, which was, I remember calling that one. That was amazing. I love that, especially because Gary Allen's turned out to be like just kind of like folk hero for the Angels this season.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
I think he's definitely become very memeable this season. Gary Allen memes galore in this community.
For sure. Moving on to the National League, the Fishes of Chris faced the Yankees of Crazy, and Crazy took that one at Steel 14-9.
Way to go. Good win on the Yankees. The Yankees have had not a great year this year, and they deserve that. They definitely deserve that win.
Yeah, Crazy decided to stream more of his games, and that probably was the reason or possibly might have been the reason why he didn't make the playoffs, because once he started to not stream anymore, he started to win more of his games, but was a little bit too late to catch up to get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Then the Athletics beat the Marlins. That's Arco against Shrews, 5-2 at Du Bois. Then
close game.
Consolation Shrews was just unlucky this season, not able to reclaim that consolation magic that he normally has. Then in the winners bracket for the National League was the Yankees and the Athletics. That game was also at Steel, and the Yankees put up 11 runs in winning that game against the Athletics. On the Athletics side, it was 0-0 until like the fourth inning, and then it came down to it was 11-7 or something like that. Arco did not want to let Babe stop pitching, even though his juice was low, for the memes and for the statistical consistency, since he pitched every inning in the regular season. He didn't want to change that, even though the juice was getting really low.
You know what? I get that. I get it when you want to stick with a pitcher, even though his juice is low, just so you can have the say that he finished the game. But I definitely had moments this season where I probably should have taken him out and put in Jay. Jay's not a bad pitcher either, but I really rocked with Fernando for most of the season.
Yeah, I really like Fernando. I think he's kind of like Lisa as far as pitching.
Right. They're very similar.
As far as the curveballs. And then the last game was the Fishes and the Marlins. That just recently
finished.
And that was +5 for the Marlins and +20 for the Fish at Ekman. Iceman Parker hit 2 home runs, and I believe Kimmy Ekman hit a inside the park home run and a crazy bunt.
Oh, crazy.
So the Fishes and Chris really putting the hammer down on that one, being mean to poor Shrews.
Oh no.
But so, sadly, Consolation Shrews could not pull the magic off this season, and he is eliminated from the Consolation Tournament. So next, we got the Athletics and the Fish in an elimination game, and the Pirates and the Angels in an elimination game. The winner of those will face the Orioles and the Yankees respectively, and that will be the championship series as far as the American League and National League side of the brackets are concerned. And the winner of those will face each other.
There's a bunch of good games left to be played in this series, so definitely keep an eye out for them, for sure.
Yeah, I think Question Monkey usually always streams. Crazy usually restreams the replay of it. The Athletics typically stream as well, so look forward to those streams whenever they happen, and also look forward to the online games when they are for the online league. We just had our bye weekend because of the holiday, and there might be a couple games going on right after we are recording this, so look forward to that one. Any other thoughts, comments, opinions about how this season is, or moving on to next season?
Let's just go back to what we have with the playoffs. What do you think this is going to go? Let's just go through the first match. We said I'm going to pick the Monsters to itch it out over the Diamondbacks and the Cubs and the Monsters. And I mean, I've heard this season of how good the Monsters have been. I hope that they reach those expectations. And I mean, I haven't really paid up. I've been mainly focused on what's been going on in my division, and I don't know much about the Cubs. So I think if you were going to put out the Monsters versus the Cubs, I think the Monsters win. If you put in the Diamondbacks versus the Cubs, I think the Cubs win. So I don't know what is the dream matchup that you're going to look forward to crown off this season?
I think dream matchup. I don't know. Okay, what do I want to happen versus what do I think is going to happen?
I would, yeah. Actually, I would take that back. I would say I would love for Pepsi to overtake the Monsters and get to the World Series in his first year. That would be great. I think that's a good win for new players, and that would be awesome. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Monsters are more experienced and a more veteran team and more firepower. So I just think the Monsters are going to win that one. But I don't know. I want to say that the Monsters versus the Cubs is a really tough pick 'em.
Yeah, I think I would pick the Cubs no matter who is gonna be the champion in the National League side of things. But it really depends on. I think that the Cubs have shown that they can score runs on pretty much anyone, but the games that they have struggled with the most were on grass fields against my team.
Ugh.
So I know it's not exactly the same thing at the Super Colossal Dome, since it does have a little bit more bounce in it than a normal grassy field. It's kind of like playground versus like Ekman would be. But since they are I think that would be a closer matchup. I think that one might go to like 4 or 5 games, honestly.
But you still think at the end of the day the Cubs are going to pull this out?
I still think at the end of the day the Cubs would win against the Monsters, but I think it'd be a really close fight. I think that if the Diamondbacks played the Cubs, I think the Emery is really good at exploiting holes in people's defenses, and I think that Emery will expose the Diamondbacks defense.
We're gonna see. It's gonna be a good cap off to this season. I think that there are gonna be some shockers in this last couple games. So we'll see. I'm very excited, and I'm very excited for what we have in the next couple of weeks of the off season. I know there's gonna be some people that are gonna want to learn some new things and definitely develop their craft of the game. So I'm excited for that as well. So it's going to be interesting.
And for the World Series, we might have some special guest commentators. So
even better.
Look forward to that as well.
Ooh.
That's not entirely finalized, but we're in talks with some people. So hopefully this will be a really exciting showcase for all you fans of the backyard baseball and the rBBL. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. So.
Well, it is great having me. I appreciate it. And I would love to come back if you would have me. I appreciate the time to talk about one of my favorite things. So we'll talk soon, okay?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I really enjoyed having you on, and we'll definitely love to have you on a different time. So I'll have to get it on the schedule at some point. But I think that's going to do it all for us, and we'll see you guys in a future episode.